Good evening and welcome to the public SEAC meeting. Thank you for being available to participate in person, electronically. It is my pleasure to welcome members of the public who are connected to the meeting. SEAC appreciates your interest in public education in York Region. As per our current practice, members of the public have the opportunity to listen or observe the proceedings. If you have any questions, you're welcome to reach out to the chair of the SEAC or the secretary. All parliamentary actions are outlined in the York Region District School Board Operation Bylaw and will continue to be followed. As the chair, I will be inviting members by name to speak to any reports, including the agenda. I will be identifying speakers verbally, or staff will indicate using an electronic speakers list. This is our first public meeting, actually in the boardroom, in 6 years. So that is, accomplishment and sad at the same time. For some people, this is the first time they've been in this room. So it may seem intimidating, but it's not. It's just a horseshoe. We can see you all. You use the microphone or you use your hand and we figure out how to do it, so don't worry. And I think we've all had a practice test about raising our hand or putting on the red light to speak. So I will turn it over to Vice Chair Sue Walters, who will do the land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We affirm that we are all treaty people and acknowledge that York Region District School Board is located on the lands of 2 treaties. These treaties have been signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation and the First Nations of the Williams Treaty, who are the Mississaugas of Alderville, Curve Lake, Hiawatha, Scugog Island, and the Chippewas of Beausoleil, Rama, and Georgina Island, who is our closest neighbor and partner in education. To honor this agreement, we will take up our responsibility to be respectful of their traditions, knowledge, and inherent rights as sovereign nations. We will respect their relationship with these lands and recognize that our connection to this land is through the continued relationship with these First Nations. And we acknowledge our shared responsibility to respect and care for the land and waters for future generations.
Thank you, Sue. Now, can you hear me? Yeah. You can hear me? All right, okay, good. So as we move, kind of motion to approve the agenda. So anyone who's sitting at this table who are SEAC reps, you can move and you can second. Moved by Lillian, right? All right, Lillian. And second, just say your name out loud so that we're, Sarah, so that secretary will know everything, but administration, she does know everything anyways. We wouldn't have had our meal without her. Everybody in favor? No one's against? Okay. Declaration of conflict of interest. Any trustee who has a direct personal interest or a direct or indirect personal interest in any matter being discussed during this meeting to state their conflict and their nature thereof. I'm looking at our 3 trustees and I'm sure they would declare if there was, so thank you. Approval of the minutes. So can I have a motion to approve the March 5th minutes? Sue Walters, seconder, Sarah. All those in favor? Where you put your hands up. Just in case. All right, perfect. Whoops, she's going to keep pushing the red button for me. Before business arising, we addressed most of it in the subcommittee, and I'll address that later. My eyes are starting to water. Okay, so before we go into spotlighting, I just think in our minutes, we just want to acknowledge 3 or 4 things before we go into spotlighting. One is that this is the first time in 6 years, which I've already said, and for some of you, it's the first time. How many in this room is for the first time in this room? All right, so not quite half, but a bunch of you, which is which is great to see. And we have full complement, so that's even better, you know, that we have all of this. The other piece that I wanted to acknowledge is that prior to this meeting, we had the Grizzly Cafe. We had the teachers, we had the principals, we had the families, we had the kids serving us our beverage and dessert. Plus, we got a little gift in honor of Volunteer Week, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But I think that, before we go into spotlighting, is probably one of the best ways to start our meeting for the first time that we've been in person after a long time. And Shannon brought this group to us, I can't remember how long ago, but it's obviously worked, Shannon. So now you've got to cut out, so every September or December, we're going to need, you know, dessert and drinks. So thank you, Shannon, as well. And a special thanks to Lori for putting this all together behind the scenes to make sure that we had everything we needed and that you all had name tags so we sort of knew. So tonight I would just ask if you could just say your name, you know, if you're speaking or if you're doing a motion or a seconder, just to make it simpler for everybody. With that, I'm now going to turn it over to Shannon, who's going to talk about spotlighting excellence, achievement, and committee.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, and through you, Madam Chair. Tonight's Spotlighting Excellent Achievement and Community presentation, our monthly video, is in celebration and recognition of Autism Acceptance Month, which we celebrate every April. And what we thought we would do this month in recognition of this special time is to highlight some specific school initiatives as well as our system initiative and practice that we do every year. So it's kind of bookended by specific schools celebrating initiatives that they have created that students are leading and supporting. So you'll see that at each end of the video. And in the middle is our own flag raising, which there's no special effects in the video. So you'll see real snow. There was no filter, no special effects. It was a bit of a snowy day that day, but it did not dampen the mood. It was amazing to see students and families and staff and faces around this table come together and to raise the flag in celebration and recognition of Autism Acceptance Month. So if we can roll the tape.
Happy Autism Acceptance Month! When students learn about Autism Acceptance Month, a lot of times they learn about the diagnosis. But our school has shifted from that when we invited guests to share their lived experiences or parents to come in to share about their child with us. And now our students are understanding Autism Acceptance Month as celebrating people. So the students in my class this year will be part of the presenters. Last year they were introducing our guests, and this year they're going to be the actual guests. They will be reading to primary classes a book about an autistic character, or a book that's written by a family member of an autistic individual or by autistic authors themselves. Students will be coming to our class for this read aloud so that they will naturally see and be curious about how our environment is different and raise questions about what is needed for individuals who are autistic to learn successfully.
And that one thing and that thing with her brain, it was autism, see? She was different, not less. They all finally agreed. Like most kids on her age, she loved ice cream and art. So here is the lesson. Feeling odd or offbeat, being different might just be what makes you so neat. It feels nice reading the story. However, like it's kind of nervous to read in front of a class. So yeah, so I still tried my best though.
The Bagel program is a partnership that we have with Crosby School and an organization called Feed the Children, who provide all of the food for the program. And what they've asked us to do, if we could help organize and pack bags so then they can then distribute the food to students at Bayview School, but then also students at Crosby School.
I reached out to Bayview to let them know that there's this program happening. I think it would be a really great experience for students to come in and help out, put the bags together and make lunches, and they are able to work on this wonderful collaboration of the elementary school working with the high school and really giving back to our students and community.
My favorite part of the bagels is putting the stickers on the bags.
I enjoy participating in the bagel program because I like packing the bagels in the bags.
I like doing the bagel program because I get to help people that really need it.
I don't mind the bagel job, but I wish I had a YRT to take me there. But I do enjoy the bagel job though.
One thing that I'm really big on is teaching the class that they can serve their community, which I think is a really impactful thing, because a lot of times when people think of students with disabilities, they think of how we can help them. But what I try to empower my students that they can serve others and they can be part of the community and they can give back to the community.
Dave. Oh, we got it now. We had the blue light on. I didn't touch it, really. She touched it. So before we do special announcements, I think we have the privilege of having Bill with us tonight as our director. So would you like to say a few words?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the opportunity, and it's great to welcome everyone here to the boardroom tonight for SEAC. Really appreciate everyone being here, and it's wonderful to have a full house, Madam Chair, as you recognized earlier. I think it's really, really important as we recognize that this is Volunteer Month. April is Volunteer Month, and all of you could be anywhere else tonight. You could be anywhere else doing anything else, but you're here with us. And your contribution is so important for our students and our staff in providing service excellence to our students. And there's no better way to celebrate that than we saw on the Spotlight video. And to have the opportunity to have the Grizzly Cafe here in advance with us, so you get an opportunity to see your impact. And your impact is felt across every school, across our system, each and every day, in ways that you don't even get to see. But I want to share with you, it is so appreciated, and we thank you for your leadership, because we have a wonderful partnership, and we incredibly value your contribution and your feedback and your input to support our students and to make us brighter and better each and every day, because we know we're a learning organization and we continue to learn each and every day in service of our students. So on behalf of the entire staff and trustees and everyone, families in the York Region District School Board, thank you very much, because it's incredibly important that you recognize the time that you commit to us is valued, and it is, so thank you. I would like to also, Madam Chair, take a moment and acknowledge just a touch point a little bit around recently there's been some legislation that was introduced. And I'll share briefly just a little bit of an overview. So as you're maybe aware, the Minister of Education has introduced the Putting Student Achievement First Act of 2026. And I will share that the bill has gone through first and second reading in the House, and now is, before it goes to third reading, it is referred to a standing committee. And this is a regular legislative procedure that takes place before the bill is approved. So it's reviewed by committee before the third reading, and the committee stage is a formal process for the bill. Once the legislation passes, we will receive, probably in the days shortly after, accompanying regulations that will outline the steps and the changes in the work. But I want to commit to you as Director of Education that in the York Region District School Board, we are a leader in public education across the province of Ontario, and we will continue to be, and we recognize any changes that enhance confidence in public education, enhance our service in public education. We know we have your partnership in that, and we as a staff and trustees and everyone attached to the York Region District School Board welcome that. And we will make sure that we update you as we need to go through any operational changes and share those updates, and we'll probably do that through the work of SEAC. I know Coordinating House will be on the forefront of leading that in advising and sharing that information with you. And really, I just want to share the message that we continue to do the great work each and every day across the region, in every school, in every classroom, in every program. And please know that we will come back and update you as these operational changes, because you may hear things in the media. That often happens when legislation is introduced, but that until we have the regulations and further, we'll provide those updates for you. And with that, I also want to take a moment, Madam Chair, and introduce Laura Leasty, who does not need an introduction to SEAC through her many years in student services, but Laura is now sitting in the chair of Associate Director of Education. So Laura, thank you for joining us this evening. And just introduce Laura because it's her first opportunity to join the group, SEAC, in the chair of Associate Director of Education. So thank you, Laura, and welcome. And I thank you for the opportunity, Madam Chair. I'll cut my comments off there and look forward to the rest of the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, as always. And now I'm going to turn it over to Wendy Howes, who will say a few words as well.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Zeraldo, further to the director's comments, I did want to just take an opportunity to recognize that in Canada, April 19th to April 25th is National Volunteers Recognition Week. And for us, it is not lost, as the director has shared, that you could be anywhere this evening and you chose to be here. And so we do want to again recognize Glad Park Public School under the leadership of Trish Dines and Chris Connors, who are the principal and vice principal, and the leadership of Amanda Tetro, who is the teacher, and our educational assistants, Miss Sweeney and Miss Dixon, who came tonight to have the Grizzly Cafe pop-up, an opportunity for us to have a little bit of an opportunity to have some coffee and tea and some sweets and see each other in person after 6 years, and also an opportunity to provide you all, sorry for the noise, a little swag from the Grizzly Cafe in appreciation for your work as volunteers. So thank you very much for your work. This year the theme is Ignite Volunteerism, and we're just hoping that it's an opportunity to encourage individuals to reconnect with their communities through service and mutual support. So in recognition of volunteer Awareness Week, we just wanted to say thank you to all of our SEAC members, and I'll turn it back to you, Chair Zeraldo.
And I will add my thanks. Each and every one of you have given support, have given input, have given challenges to us, talked about success stories all through your volunteer time, and that we really appreciate. At the end of the day, to be able to extend your day for another 2 or 3 hours, well, tonight it's been a little bit longer, but it is very much appreciated. And as we go through this year, and as Bill says, as things come down, we will see a lot more changes. But together, we can make a difference, and we've already shown that as volunteers around this table, and we'll continue to do that. So again, thank you to each and every one of you. Now we have, I have one more special announcement before we go to our speaker. And if you came in tonight, you saw, tech support in the back, it was unbelievable. It was like media headquarters, and I'm going, oh, I remember the days when the media used to be over there. But I welcome the fact that it's our tech support. So I'd ask Dave and Chris, I don't think you have to push any buttons for this, but if Dave and Chris can come forward to me. Makes them really nervous, but don't be nervous. You know by now, the control center, you've got it handled, don't worry. Front and center, and someone will take a picture.
Shannon, that's you.
I have to tell you.
We're not usually out here.
I know, but that's good. We're setting a precedent, so that you should be out front, and I have to tell you, for the last 6 years, Chris and Dave has been this voice, and sometimes in the middle of the night for me, like, what happens if this button doesn't work when we are ready to start? So we just have a little small token of the appreciation that we really appreciate both of you for all the work you've done and for always trying to troubleshoot each and every one SEAC rep, because I'm not the only one that doesn't know what button to push, So for that, we thank you. A lot of time has gone into this, and I'm sure a lot of time has gone into the control thing. It's a wonder they don't have a little special box, Bill, this boardroom has been here as long as I've been around, so when I listen to people saying that, we spend money on other things, and I think, well, not in our boardroom, not in our board, but I digress. But just a point. But really, Chris and Dave, thank you for the last 6 years of how much you have done for us on behalf of SEAC, and we just didn't want it to go unnoticed. And I know this is Chris, and I know this is Dave, and you each get a certificate, and I am going to stand for this, in spite of what everyone thinks. So on behalf, it's just a small token of our appreciation. And we did feed them beforehand, too. So that was probably a little bit of a bonus as well. And to Dave as well. And again, I can't tell you how much we appreciate everything. Perfect.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Always making sure. Okay. Now it's Wendy's turn to introduce our first speaker.
Thank you very much, and through you, Chair Zeraldo, it's my pleasure this evening to welcome our Manager of Finance Services, Karina Postel, who is going to walk us through our budget information session. As part of our commitment to public education, we appreciate the feedback from our public as well as our SEAC Advisory Committee. So without further ado, I'm going to ask Karina to walk us through this, and then our principals, Steve, Shannon, and Jillian, are going to take us through a little bit of an opportunity to gather your feedback in this process. So thank you very much, and over to you, Karina.
Thank you, Wendy, and good evening, everyone. In today's budget information session, I will walk you through the financial context that is shaping the development of York Region District School Board 26-27 budget. Next slide, please. Instead of reviewing budget terminologization as we have in the prior years, the focus will be on the current financial environment of the boards that our board is facing. Our planning is influenced by three key factors: ongoing declining in student enrollment, provincial funding that is predominantly enrollment driven, and continued growth in operating costs. Together, these conditions contribute to a more complex financial landscape and highlight the need for careful and informed decision making. Next slide, please. This slide highlights how student enrollment in Ontario has shifted over time from a period of growth to a period of decline. York Region is experiencing a similar trend as Ontario. There are several underlying factors contributing to this trend. First, we are seeing lower birth rates, which means smaller kindergarten cohorts are entering the school system each year. Second, changes to the federal immigration policies have affected both overall immigration levels and international student numbers. Third, housing affordability continues to be a significant challenge, particularly in regions like York. Higher cost of living and slower housing development limit the number of families able to move into the area. Finally, we are seeing a demographic shift where larger cohorts are graduating out of the system, while the groups entering at the early grades are much smaller. Next slide, please. We'll start with the elementary enrollment. As shown, elementary gradually increased in the past 10 years, with some short-term fluctuation during the pandemic. Enrollment began to decline in 2024-25, and in the 25-26, enrollment is expected to go down to the level seen about 10 years ago in 2015-16. Looking ahead, the projections for 26-27 through the 28-29 indicate a continued downward trend in enrollment. These projections reflect demographic pressures and broader provincial trends rather than short-term or one-time factors. Moving to secondary enrollment, we can see a different pattern with a steady growth over a number of years, peaking in 2024-2025. The growth reflects earlier demographic momentum and enrollment patterns that were present in the recent past. However, beginning this school year, secondary enrollment is also projected to start declining. While the decline is expected to be more gradual than in elementary enrollment, projections indicate a downward trend over the upcoming years. Next slide, please. This slide presents the total enrollment trend, which combines the patterns previously shown across the elementary and secondary panels. After a period of growth to 24-25, enrollment is declining and it's expected to continue downward. This means that we are serving fewer students than in the past years. From a financial perspective, this projected decline is significant. As enrollment levels directly influence funding allocations, many associated costs do not decrease proportionally. These trends are therefore an important consideration in both short-term budget decision and long-term financial planning. This is an overview of how our board funding is structured and highlights the extent to which it is driven by enrollment. As shown, most of our funding, about 97.2%, comes from the core education funding. This funding is provincially provided and is primarily based on student enrollment. School boards have very limited ability to generate revenue locally. Other sources, such as international student fees, are also enrollment-based. Additional revenue, including interest income and program fees such as adult ESL, make up only about 2.3% of our total operating revenue. As a result, changes in student numbers have a significant and immediate impact on our financial position and underscore the importance of enrollment trends in our budget planning. Next slide, please. Here are highlighted several of the key challenges and cost pressure that are influencing the board's financial position and budget planning. First, inflationary pressures continue to affect a wide range of operating costs, including supplies, services, utilities, and contracts in the day-to-day school operations. Second, sick leave and WSIB costs continue to present budget pressures. These costs can fluctuate year over year and are influenced by factors such as staffing levels, absenteeism trends, and legislative requirements. Special education needs also continue to increase. Providing appropriate supports and services for students with special education needs remains a priority, but it places additional pressure on staffing and program resources that are not always fully offset by funding. At the same time, mandatory increases in employer CPP contributions represent a structural cost increase. Finally, broader economic uncertainty creates challenges for financial forecasting and long-term planning. Factors such as interest rates, labor market conditions, and provincial or federal policy changes can all have downstream financial impacts. These expenses are largely non-discretionary. They are required costs that must be managed within the existing funding framework. Next slide, please. This slide shows how the board's 25-26 operating budget of approximately 1.8 billion is allocated. The most significant part of the budget, about 89.3%, is dedicated to staffing costs. This reflects the labor-intense nature of public education, with the majority of funding supporting all board's employees. The remaining 10.7% represents non-staffing costs, which include items such as supplies, services, utilities, transportations, and facility-related expenses. Overall, this breakdown highlights that staffing costs dominate the operating budget, which limits flexibility when enrollment-driven funding declines, while many costs remain fixed. Here is a more detailed breakdown of where the board's 25-26 operating budget is spent. As noted earlier, staffing costs make up most of the budget, accounting for 89.3%. Of this amount, 87% supports schools and are classroom-based costs, including teachers, DECE, educational assistants, principals and vice principal, school office staff, and caretaking staff. A further 2.3% is dedicated to system support staff who provide centralized and operational support across the board, such as director's office, trustees, finance, payroll, human resources, information technology, and other central services. The remaining 10.7% of the budget relates to non-staffing costs. This includes instructional expenses at 3.5%, such as classroom supplies, technology, and other student learning resources. Transportation at 3.1%, which include busing the students. Pupil accommodation at 3.7%, including maintenance and school operation costs, and other administrative expenses at 0.4% for legal fees, audit costs, and office supplies. Next slide, please. This slide summarizes the financial context the board is now operating within. First, student enrollment continues to decline. Then, provincial funding is largely tied to enrollment, declining enrollment directly resulting in reduced funding available for the board. At the same time, costs continuing to rise. This combination significantly limits budget flexibility. This environment has led to more complex budget decisions. This requires a balanced and deliberate approach to ensure financial sustainability while meeting student needs. Next slide, please. When developing the budget, the board must consider multiple factors to ensure that funding is allocated responsibly and effectively. Student enrollment is a foundational driver as it directly impacts funding levels and program needs. Closely related are class size requirements, which influence staffing levels and resource allocation. Collective agreements are another key factor. They establish staffing ratios, compensation structures, and working conditions, all of which impact how resources are allocated and the overall cost of delivering education. In addition, funding restrictions set by the province limit how certain revenues can be used, which affects flexibility in budget planning. Beyond this system-wide consideration, local priorities and specific needs are taken into account to ensure schools and communities are appropriately supported. Public consultation and board strategic priorities, as outlined in the multi-year strategic plan, further inform decision-making to ensure alignment with community values and long-term goals. Together, these factors shape a balanced and informed approach to budget development. Next slide, please. As we continue with the development of the 26-27 budget, community input remains an essential part of our process. We encourage students, families, staff, and community members to share their feedback through the board's online budget survey, which will remain open until tomorrow. The survey is available on the board's website, and it's open to all members of the community. To support accessibility and inclusion, the survey is offered in multiple languages. The feedback we receive will help us better understand community perspectives and priorities, particularly as we consider the choices and trade-offs that may be necessary as part of the budget development process. Next slide, please. To support transparency, here are the key milestones in the budget development process. The budget survey remains open until April 17, and a public budget consultation was conducted on April 13. The 25-26 second quarter financial report will be presented on April 28, at which time we also expect core education funding information to be released. Advisory committee feedback and a summary of the public consultation will be shared in May with the Finance and Property Committee. A draft budget will be presented in early June, incorporating the feedback received, and the final budget is expected to be approved mid-June. We will continue to communicate updates as the process moves forward. Next slide, please. This concludes the budget information presentation. As outlined, the 26-27 budget is being developed within a changing financial environment. Our objective is to balance fiscal responsibility with our ongoing commitment to student success and well-being. I will now be happy to take any questions.
So I would encourage anybody who has any questions or comments to put up their hand, and we'll get on the speaker list. So Lillian, go ahead.
Thank you. I just wondered, I know that it's based on enrollment, your funding. Is it a fixed number per child, or is it a range of, if you've got this
the funding, the core education funding, was refined recently by the ministry, and it's based on the enrollment. There are different funds, but everything is tied to the enrollment, like number of students in elementary and secondary. After that, there are some fundings based on the CONET, on the class sizes, but mainly in the enrollment, number of students.
Go for it, Jasmine.
Hi, Jasmine, Community Living, Central York. I'm just wondering, you know, there was a lot of information there in terms of what the projections are for forecasting for, you know, 2028, 2029, and that is like a big drop. And I'm sure you guys are looking at this, but it would probably make, I think, some of us feel a little bit better to know, are there any plans in place to make sure that we can not cut major services that we're providing if that's such a huge drop that's tied to that per person funding?
Now, based on the estimated enrollment, and this trend, it's seen throughout the Ontario, it's not only our school board, will drive the funding. When the core education will be released, we will plan accordingly our expenditures based on the funding, keeping in mind and trying to keep programs and services. It's a big process where the senior team is constantly working on and expecting the ministry release of the core funding at the end of April.
And sorry, if I may, I think one of the other things that this process allows us to do is to have the input from this group of people to hear and understand where the priorities are, so that as we are thinking about these decisions, we are thinking about them on behalf of all of the constituents that we serve. So this committee, as an advisory committee, is an important part of this. Our public survey is also available on our public website. That information is taken into account, is collated, because as we are making these decisions, we are thinking about what is the feedback and how do we work within the confines of the budget that we have to ensure that we are thinking about our programs and services for students across the region. So this process that we're about to engage in is going to be super helpful. And I don't know, Chair Zeraldo, if it might be helpful to do some of the brainstorming back and forth and then come back to maybe that will generate some further questions and some points for clarification.
I just wanted to add to that too, from a trustee perspective, the budget is the budget, but our perspective is that we try to make sure that our most vulnerable children see the least impact. And that's the direction we give to our budget people as well, knowing that we, have huge challenges ahead, but that's our message to our budget people.
Sandy?
So something I was thinking about preparing for this meeting and related to your comment, Wendy, is I'm curious, when we give feedback at SEAC each year, do we hear back what the impact of our feedback was?
Yes, we do. If you recall, in your last package, you would have received the Student Service Budget Report, and that last column is everything that happened from last year.
So everything that happened from last year, but related to what was talked about at this table?
Correct.
Okay, that's what I wasn't clear about.
Yeah, so if you looked at
column, thank you.
Our suggestions in the middle, which is what we'll probably look at tonight for some of them, then you see what happened to our recommendations in that third column. And the reason it was developed that way, and then of course the first column is to do with the district action plan, was so that we could see as a SEAC and the public could see as a SEAC that our input did make trustees listened, staff listened, and we made an impact. Did we get everything we wanted? Absolutely not. But we still, you know, when I present in May, the trustees have always been very supportive of our students and our most vulnerable students. I mean, one of the questions always, even from the public, says, well, do they really listen to you? Do you see the difference? This shows the difference, you know, by having this chart there. And you can, this is a public chart, you know, it's public meetings, so it can be shared of what input we gave last year and then what happened with the changes. So I don't know if anyone wants to add to that, otherwise I'm going to go to another. Does that help, Sandy?
Yes, thank you. For some reason, visually, I wasn't making the connections.
Yeah. Well, it's easy not to sometimes. You know, it's just like some of us see it in our sleep, and then others go, what are they doing? What does this say? So thank you for bringing that up and making it, for us to make it clear, and maybe there's ways that we can do that in the future as well. It's just the way my brain works, but what is the percentage? I know you gave me the numbers, but what is the percentage of declining?
I think it's about 6%.
6%?
Now going in the 26-27 budget. The ministry also advised all the boards to be very careful with the projection, and because they see this declining trend. And we are following the ministry requirements and hoping for a higher enrollment than we predicted at the beginning of 26-27, and to revise the budget with more funding.
Okay. Bill, did you want to add to this?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I want to thank Karina for the presentation, because I recognize the budget team in working through the budget process and coming to all groups, including SEAC. It's a very sobering message to share. And I want to thank the budget team and their hard work that they're working across the district in working through this budget process. But I do want to share some context that Karina just alluded to in regard to the ministry's message to all districts. So enrollment across Ontario is down significantly. This is not unique to the York Region District School Board. This is across the province of Ontario. Across public education in all public boards this year, we saw a decline of almost 72,000 students. And when you look at that, that is about the size of a medium to large size school district. And York Region is a part of that 72,000 because we are the third largest district in the province of Ontario. And so our numbers are, you know, significant, as Karina had shared, and you saw on the graph that she shared in her budget presentation. The reason I want to share this context is because there's a number of contributing factors, and I want you to be aware of them. I think it's important that you're aware of this. There are birth rate data that contributes to our enrollment that has been significantly down, and our planning team has been sharing that forecast forward for a couple of years, and it is coming true. The birth year data is significantly down. The immigration patterns have changed. You know through the news that there has been immigration changes in Canada, and there has been significant patterns of international student changes at the post-secondary level. And the post-secondary level, believe it or not, you're thinking, why is the director talking about post-secondary? Well, often there's complementary enrollment that comes along with post-secondary enrollment. Families come and join our communities because they have older children that are attending post-secondary institutions, and they bring their younger siblings along and they join us early. And it's no secret that the economic factors of tariffs and economic growth is somewhat stagnant right now. And so as a result of that, we're not seeing significant investment, and we're not seeing significant folks coming into, not just specifically York Region, but really across the GTA where housing is a little bit more expensive, and we being in York Region are a big part of that. So these are all contributing factors, and I just want this on your radar and understanding as we're working through this. The teams are doing an incredible job of working through the process and also working at making sure we're engaging all young families that we can in understanding the service excellence that we deliver here in the York Region District School Board, so people are confident in bringing their families and their children to the York Region District School Board, and understanding how important, ever more important, our programming is to deliver that service excellence. And so to go back to a question that Sandy asked, we, at the forefront of our budget discussions is always in the delivery of service excellence, in making sure our programs are comprehensive and support the students that we have, and making sure that we can do all we can with the budget that we are afforded and delivered in the most efficient way. Capacity is important, but delivering it in the most efficient way. And our staff do a tremendous job of doing that. I think Chair Zeraldo shared very candidly that we're a large board, but really we're no frills in many ways. We stick to the minister's language of student achievement first and students first. We do that very well in York Region District School Board, and we will always have that as our focus. So thank you, Chair Zeraldo. I just wanted to share a little bit of context, and I didn't want to leave Karina lonely up there as delivering this message. So just to share the message along. Thank you, Karina. Thank you, Chair.
I think it's important for the people around this table to take the message seriously that Karina and the team have given us. So there's not going to be any new money to do bigger things, but there will be money that we can enhance on, do differently. This is not the first time we've had this discussion. But I think that we have to be very creative, and I've been around long enough to see that the team can be very creative of how they service our kids. It needs to be put in the minutes that the needs of our students are increasing. There's no question. The complexity is also increasing. So those are two pieces that for our students is really crucial when we're looking at budgets. Because believe me, if we don't meet the needs and the complexity, we'll have more problems, and we really need to ensure that we do our best to do that. So I think even as we go through our table talk with each other tonight, you can do bigger things. Like you can do, you don't need to do one specific thing, but you could say, you need more support services or whatever. But if there's something that's in your head that you would like to see done or added, state it. It doesn't mean we're not going to listen to it. It means that we can file it into the block for another time, or if another block of funding comes. But I don't see any other questions for Karina so that she can stand off that box and feel. But I know that.
Feeling guilty for delivering bad news.
Yeah. No, you know what? You're not the first one, and you won't be the last one, and you won't be the last. But we know you have our back, and I know that I talked to one of the union reps today, and I think she's still in the audience, and I know they have our back when it comes to our students as well. So those are all good things. Those are all great messages. And so we do have to be creative. I know at least I get 2 calls a year at least about, I want to move to York Region because we have the best programming in York Region. I said, well, I can't tell you what school to go to. You have to determine that through the process, et cetera. But always do get calls about the programs that we do offer in York Region. So on behalf of, did you want to say something before I, no, yes?
No, I was just going to turn it over to the team to walk.
Okay. So just on behalf of SEAC, thank you, Karina, before we go to our next stage. And You're welcome to stay, but you don't need to. Just to say,
Thank you, Madam Chair, and
you're
thank you
welcome.
for the opportunity of presenting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karina. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to the principals of student services who are going to give us a little bit of instructions for us to have an opportunity to talk amongst each other with our partners at our tables and gather some of your feedback. So I will turn it over to them at this time.
Thank you very much. And through you, Chair Zeraldo, first, as Karina is leaving, I do want to give a little shout out that she and her department, I can vouch personally, work extremely hard to be as efficient as possible and give us as much flexibility as possible. And this is where we're going to come to you now and make you earn your volunteer wages. So we have for you each a little graphic organizer. And what we would like you to do is, reflecting on the multi-year strategic plan, we have our 3 areas of focus, but also on the right-hand side, there's a space for you to be thinking specifically about your organization and the students that you represent. And what are the priorities that your organization and the students that you represent have when it comes to us as a board, planning out how we're going to use the resources that we have going forward. And then from that, we would like you to take those 2 pieces and kind of map the priorities from yourself and your organization into the multi-year strategic plan areas. And as you can see, we used a Venn diagram because I'm sure many of your priorities will fit under many of the, or at least more than one of the priority areas in our strategic plan. So we're going to give you 10 minutes, and feel free, please work with an elbow partner, have conversations. You can kind of hone down what you're trying to think about or what you're trying to communicate. But I also want to make sure that everyone knows that this is not your only opportunity. Going forward, if you go, as always happens with a test, with an essay, with an interview, whatever it might be, you're driving home and you're like, oh, I should have said. You have that opportunity as well. If you email anything that you think of over the next week, you are more than welcome to email that to Chair Zeraldo and myself, and we will ensure that it gets included in the feedback. We will be collecting the organizers that you have at the end of this, and then that is going to inform the work that Chair Zeraldo and I do in putting together the board report, which will then be shared back with the committee. Okay? So with that in mind, I will start my little magic timer and give you 10 minutes to work on some feedback. Thank you. All right, members of SEAC, if we can start to regroup. So thank you very much. Just as a personal reflection, it is always nice having been out of a school, well, I mean, visiting schools, but having been out of a school for a little while, when we get to hear that productive noise of productive conversation, it's a good little recall, and thank you. So what we're going to do now is open up the floor to any questions that you may have. And then after we've done that, we'll open the floor to any reflections or comments that people would like to really emphasize that they had through their conversations. And then after that, we will collect the organizational charts. All right? So if there's anyone that has any questions that they would like to ask of the board.
Don't be shy. Is there anything from your groups that you want to share, that you want to make highlighted in the minutes? So maybe I'll start. So something that Sue and I talked about is really to ensure that the more interdepartmental work that we can do in our board, like i.e. curriculum and special education and inclusive school model that we've been doing for the last 3 or 4 years, is really important, because they could get a pot of money that they could also share with our people. So I think that that's a very key message that we would want to see in the minutes. We also talked about at least status quo of what we got last year, but we do know that there will be some cuts, but at least as close as we can to status quo of what we've got. We should probably add that there. And then the mental health, that includes our support staff, you know, whether they be the speech and language pathologists or psychologists, et cetera, that they're a key resource, you know, that we need to have, especially because of the complex needs of our kids. So it's sort of like an A list and a B list. Do we cut across everything? Or is there certain things that we say we just don't cut? You know, and that's, you know, the hard part sometimes. Because I've said this before, you pay now or you pay later. And that phrase has not stopped me saying it, because if we can do what we saw tonight with our students in the schools, doing that program of learning life skills, of doing things, of feeling that they belong, that they matter. We do more programs like that, they'll feel better, and they'll be able to, mental health-wise, and know that they are capable of defining something that they can do in their community. Otherwise, they will be one of our statistics, and that's what we don't want, you know, and so I know the trustees in this room have already heard me say it, not Trustee Big Canoe, but I will be saying it. Pay now, pay later. You know, I haven't changed that message, even though it's never in my script. I always say it. So that's just an idea of some of the things that Sue and I talked about. So hopefully that helps you to maybe want to open your mic and say a couple things that you talked about. I'm looking at people saying, okay.
Trustees.
Trustee Butterworth.
I'm the designated speaker. We talked a lot about a lot of things, but the one thing we would like to see continue is the PEAK program. And I wrote it down, Pathways to Employment and Applied Knowledge Program, for our students who, from 18 to 21, have a program for them to help get them ready for the next pathway in their lives. So we really see the value in that. And then we said also, sort of put all our ideas together that, you know, as best as we can, sufficient supports for integrated special needs children who are in mainstream classrooms. Because we 100% support inclusion, but that also means support. So for it to be successful. And that
We need
was
a continuum of service.
that was it for us.
Yeah, continuum of service. As Stephen said, that, you know, if you want to go home, think about it, talk to your organization and think, okay, based on what we saw tonight, based on the 6 pages that were sent to you prior, and you come up with another idea or something else that you want to share, then feel free to. I don't do my presentation until May 25th, but we have to have it in like 2 or 3 weeks beforehand. So, you know, we'll need your input by May 1st for sure, I think is the deadline that Stephen put on. Jim?
Sarah and I were brainstorming. We had an idea of a kind of like a accommodations passport, which is almost a checklist for parents and students to go through. I mean, it's part of their IEP, but it's a visual presentation so that you can have ongoing dialogue with teachers and so that maybe students are more aware of what accommodations they should be receiving.
Yeah, it goes along, something that Sue and I talked about was about the self-advocacy, you know, and making sure that our students feel that they can advocate for themselves and understand their accommodations, be able to say what their accommodations are, and promote that through the system, which I think we have started that with some of the projects that we're working on, the LD steering, the understanding, the guide that we have. But glad to hear that you've also put it down as an idea. That's great. Anything else? Going once? Going twice? Thank you for your, you know, for doing the work together with your colleague. The principals will come and pick up your, we'll pick up your comments.
I'm moving back now.
Okay.
It's nice to see you.
Yeah, always.
Lori gets her space. No,
So that's one of the reasons why we wanted to do this meeting in person as our first one, is so that you can see how, you know, it's harder sometimes to do it virtually, but this is sort of what we've done. It's worked for many years. Can always tweak it, but it does make, and I think some of us were concerned that Stephen and the group might not be able to read our writing, but you'll figure it out. We would totally figure it out. They're teachers, they're going to figure it out. Like, come on. You know, but it's always good to just give them a heads up. So we're now going to go into Stephen, the special ed plan update.
Okay, so the special education plan update. We have 2.14, and that is our accessibility of school buildings section. And all we did was update the dates to that one and change it to the new school year. And then we have section 3.0, which is the SEAC. And we updated our policy reviews, so what we've updated to date and our SEAC actions to date. And then we updated the SEAC presentations to date.
Great, so this is your opportunity, as everyone, is to look at those sections that were put in your minutes. And if you've got any feedback, to send them off. So thank you. Student Services Report, Wendy.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Zeraldo. The first part of my report tonight is a little bit of an overview of a post-secondary education accessibility fair that we did in service of our York Region District School Board transition strategy towards disability justice. It was the first year that we did this, and in partnership with York Catholic District School Board and our very own research department, we worked to understand the post-secondary landing spots for our students with special education needs. And then we worked through our transition navigators to invite those institutions, colleges, universities, and workplaces, Skills Ontario, to an evening for parents to gather information around transition planning for the next steps. If you can just go through the next slide, we were very happy to have the regionally funded Regional Assessment and Resource Center from Queen's University, that is funded through the Ministry of Education, do a keynote presentation. As you can see from the audience, we had over 300 families and students there. And then the next couple of slides are just some slides demonstrating some of the organizations and post-secondary institutions that were there with their accessibility offices. So students were able, with their families, to say, hey, I'm really interested in going to Seneca, and going to the Seneca table and saying, hey, what does this look like, and what does accessibility look like for me and my specific learning needs, and what do I need in order to receive these services, and how do I access these services. So we were very excited that this was our first night that we coordinated, and to have so many people come and receive information and get some positive feedback was fantastic. I think one of the things that we learned is, as per usual, our students steal the show. We had a graduate panel of students who had graduated from York Region District School Board last year, all of them with identified special education needs, who have gone on to post-secondary opportunities at colleges, universities, and skilled trades. And they were there to answer questions for other students. As well, we were able to promote our own internal teams. I think the next slide shows our mental health and addiction team, our central mental health team, Patricia Morris-Stapleton seen there, our mental health lead, and Paula Vicente, one of our assistant coordinators of our central mental health team. Just talking about our mental health strategy, and then of course our transition navigators who were there supporting, and some of the paperwork that you see there is some of the resources that we have crafted this year that are about to be launched on our public-facing website for families, just around transitions and what to expect at all ages, from entry to kindergarten as early as 3.9 years old, all the way through to 2021. So it was a great evening, and we're looking forward to doing this again. We had our research partners there that evening, gathering feedback, and we're in the process of collating it. But I grabbed a couple of pieces of feedback that were early pieces of feedback to share. And again, interesting timing. Feedback suggested that the event would be beneficial for grade students if offered earlier. So we were like, okay, this is a great feedback for us to take forward for next year in our planning. We, as per usual, have been very busy in student services, and we also, as mentioned earlier in the evening, April 7th was our autism acceptance flag raising at the board office here, with special thanks to Sandy Ho, our representative for Autism Ontario, who was able to be there, as well as Vice Chair Sue Walters. It wasn't as warm as it usually is. I think it's the first time I was in winter boots doing the flag raising, but always a great opportunity to just celebrate the spectrum and promote the acceptance of students with autism and autistic people across our board and all of their contributions. Last week, we also had our second annual Day Program Expo that was coordinated by our work experience transition coordinators. And again, another great event, another pathway for our students post-secondary. So great turnout there. And then last night, we had our Parent, Family, and Community Engagement Advisory Committee Symposium, and Student Services was represented by Patricia Morris-Stapleton, who was doing some promotion around mental health and well-being in the age of artificial intelligence. And then also our transition navigators were there doing some presentations on Moments Matter and how transitions can be little things during the day and bigger things between bigger life events. And so both of those received positive feedback. This evening as well, Patricia Morris-Stapleton, in partnership with YRDSB, is doing a presentation for parents on mental health with some students talking about what is mental health and strategies to promote positive mental health from a teenager's perspective. And on April 30th, open to YRDSB parents, and caregivers at Milliken Mills High School. Patricia Mara Stapleton and Teresa Riccitelli, who is our Chief of Social Work, are doing a presentation on the anxious generation. And so that information will be in the minutes and is open to all of our SEAC members and public to attend. So again, another busy month for us in Student Services, and with that, I'll pass it over to Coordinating Superintendent of Curriculum and Instructional Services and Continuing Education, Jillian Gibbons.
Thank you. So as Wendy mentioned, last night was our PIAC symposium, and we had 2 curriculum-focused sessions that were offered to support family in their understanding and engagement in literacy and mathematics. So we had comprehensive literacy, a collaborative approach that empowers, ignites, and inspires. And here we highlighted with a comprehensive view of literacy that extends beyond traditional reading and writing. To include really multiple forms of communication and expression. So participants were able to explore how literacy development can be supported through everyday experiences, connected to areas such as storytelling, music, art, science, and outdoor learning. We also had a math, beyond the worksheet, the art of mathing together. So, which focused on supporting mathematics learning through problem solving, reasoning, and discussion, rather than reliance on procedural tasks or worksheets. So the session really emphasized the importance of making sense of mathematical ideas and recognizing patterns, while offering families really practical, low-stress approaches to integrating mathematics into their daily routines. As well, last month, curriculum, student services, and inclusive schools, principals, coordinators, and consultants engaged in learning together, that they are now fondly referring to as our Learning Jamboree. Each department shared work that they were doing with a focus on common work between the departments. The day included roundtable discussions, rotations through learning centers, and fun activities to engage our workshop participants. So the opportunity to spend time learning together was a very powerful reminder of what we have and can accomplish together. Many connections were made, and many more plans are in the works as a result of this event. And we are for us in curriculum, we're in the final big professional learning push, as we tend to slow down our offerings during the school day after the May long weekend, just to slow down the number of interruptions in the school day. So this does not mean we slow down. That is when much of our writing and prepping for next year and planning starts to occur. So it's been an incredibly productive year so far, and I anticipate this final month will continue along this trend.
Thank you, as always, the duo here. Is there any questions to Wendy or Jillian? It means you can't, Sandy, go ahead.
I just have a comment. I was planning to go to the fair. I had an emergency and couldn't go. However, just wanted to thank the team for organizing it, because I shared it, and we shared it at Autism Ontario with our families. And I think what it did, even if the families didn't attend, was that it made it visible. It made that part of transition visible. I think more and more families are aware that we need more transition into the system, but they don't really necessarily see it out of the system, or they view it as an individual exercise. And this allowed it to normalize that process and say, oh, like, what do you mean U of T is there? Or what do you mean? And so people are beginning to talk about it in that context, in a communal context. So I just wanted to thank the board for organizing something like that, and just wanting you to continue to encourage, like what some of the families have said, earlier would be even better, yeah.
Anybody else? Okay. Moving on, successful practices and challenges. There were a couple that came up during our subcommittee. I'll start with Sue Walters and then turn it over to Catherine.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. YSSN was able to be part of an event today at Highview Public School that was presented by Highview and another school that I know Stephen knows the name of and I keep forgetting. H.G. Bernard. And it was a meeting of parents whose children are in various community classes talking about getting ready to make transitions, specifically the one from elementary school into high school. And it was such a great opportunity for parents to be together, to get to see other parents whose kids are in kind of the same boat, ask lots of questions, start to give some thought to what's going to come next after whatever is coming next right now. And it was really heartening to have the principal focusing on the fact that, you can always think a little bit ahead. You don't have to worry about what's coming, but you can be mindful of what's coming and start thinking about making plans. So it was we had Claire McDonald, who is the other alternate for YSSN, and I were there, and we had a great time talking to families and hearing about what their concerns are and getting to know them. So I really hope we get to do more of those.
Trustee Butterworth. I think I called her Catherine earlier.
Thank you, Chair. So I attended the day program fair, and it was fabulous. One of the things that I did notice, and being the trustee for Georgina and East Gwillimbury, was the challenge that families in the northern part of York Region don't have access to a lot of these day programs. And I learned that evening that there were only 2 programs in Georgina, which was Georgina Community Living and Peaceful Hearts. That's it. And families don't have opportunities unless they're going to leave the area. So, it's heartbreaking in a sense because it requires money, which is a problem. That's the first problem. And secondly, they have to leave their communities to find these day programs. So that's a challenge that, we're not going to fix that right now, but that's something we need to focus on. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other successful practices or challenges that people want to bring up at this point? Seeing none, we'll move to the report from the board. Trustee Cohen.
Thank you, Chair. At the March 24th, 2026 Learning Equity and Wellbeing Standing Committee meeting, trustees received a Dismantling Anti-Black Racism Strategy Information Report. The report focused on implementation updates on the strategy and includes information about the delivery of targeted student-focused initiatives to improve credit accumulation, graduation outcomes, and well-being supports for Black students. The report also highlights some meaningful family and community engagement initiatives and professional learning opportunities for staff. Trustees also received a Mathematics Achievement Action Plan Progress Update Information Report. The report shares progress as part of reporting responsibilities and provides information that will be used in the progress report to the Ministry of Education with the focus on the following: progress of classroom, school, and board areas of foci for priority schools, system-wide targeted interventions, building content knowledge, digital tools and online resources to support educators, and priority school supports. At the April 7, 2026 board meeting, trustees received a director's information report. The report focused on information including interdepartmental collaboration by staff from curriculum and instructional services, inclusive school and community services, and student services to better support school-based staff through shared professional learning focused on knowing the learner, strengthening advocacy, and building strong partnerships with families and caregivers. Also, elementary and secondary summer learning programs, as well as World Autism Month celebrations and educator resources, and the YRDSB 2026-27 public budget consultation progress, and finally, National Volunteer Month in April. The reports will be shared with committee members following the meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any questions for the trustees at this moment? Okay, so you all saw the letter that I wrote to the trustees at the beginning of the week, which I felt strongly needed to be said. And Sue and I have drafted a motion that we would like to have on the SEAC minutes today. So we're going to read out, Sue will read out the motion. She'll need a seconder, and then we'll vote on it. So you are going to vote on one thing today other than agenda and minutes. So go for it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So be it resolved that SEAC recognizes and values the important role of our York Region District School Board trustees for their governance, leadership, and ongoing commitment and support with special education needs and their families. So I will be the person moving, and I'm hoping for a seconder at this point. Jasmine.
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor? This is where I need to see your hands. Any against? So we'll make sure, trustees have already received the letter, but I wanted something in the public minutes that goes out publicly that will also acknowledge the work that our trustees have done in their stewardship. And we'll continue to welcome the work that they do. Policies and procedures, we talked a little bit about that in subcommittee. Basically, reporting children and youth in need of protection, which is policy 610, 422 facility partnerships. So as always, you have an opportunity to give input to those policies online as an individual. And at this point, we had nothing to add as far as SEAC to those two policies. Communication, we met prior and then got to see you all in person, got some dessert out of it, and then got to see our students, these little ones, you know, serving us coffee, tea, or dessert, you know, and plus they gave us a great little token for Volunteer Month. So that was the hit for us from Glad Park. May 22nd is this next date for you to get information out for the special edition. So I know you just got one, but this is the last one for the year. So we just wanted to remind you of all of that. And of course, feel free to reach out to me at any time. You know, now that you've been there face to face, you might have even more questions. I mean, some people thought that Wendy and I were tall all of a sudden. You know, so it was like, yeah, we do have legs. I think Stephen was in there too, how tall he is. So, but, you know, all kidding aside, the work that you do around this table is valued, as we've heard from Director Kohlberg and as we've heard from trustees and from the staff around the table. So take that back to your organizations, let them know that we did recognize you for Volunteer Week, and hopefully your organizations will be recognizing you as well next week. And future presentations, we're on board in May to have someone from the mental health group to come and talk. And May 7th is going to come up very quickly because we had to meet later, right? And we will be doing that virtually. And our next face-to-face meeting, we're hoping will be September to start off the year. All right. And to Dave and Chris, did we pass? Yeah? Okay. We pushed the buttons. We got it all under control. Nothing happened in control room. Thank you. A motion to adjourn, please. Sue? Jasmine?